One of the more widely recognized approaches to leadership is the situational approach, which was developed by Hersey and Blanchard based on Redden's 3D management style theory. The premise of the theory is that different situations demand different kinds of leadership. From this perspective, to be an effective leader requires that a person adapt his or her style to the demands of different situations. The essence of the situational approach demands that leaders match their style to the competence and commitment of the followers. Effective leaders are those who can recognize what followers need and then adapt their own style to meet those needs. Leadership styles can be classified further into four distinct categories of directive and supportive behaviors. The first style is a high directive, low supportive style, which is also called a directing style. In this approach, the leader focuses communication on goal achievement and spends a smaller amount of time using supportive behaviors. The second style is called a coaching approach and is a high directive, high supportive style. In this approach, the leader focuses communication on both achieving goals and meeting followers' socio-emotional needs. Style 3 is a supporting approach that requires that the leader take a high supportive, low directive style. In this approach, the leader does not focus exclusively on goals, but uses supportive behaviors that bring out followers' skills around the goal to be accomplished. The last style is called the low supportive, low directive style, or a delegating approach. In this approach, the leader offers less goal input and social support, facilitating followers' confidence and motivation in reference to the goal. The model before you illustrates how directive and supportive leadership behaviors combine for each of the four different leadership styles. The levels of development are illustrated in the lower portion of the diagram. The levels describe various combinations of commitment and competence for followers on a given goal.
Just about every organization employs people from different generations. As such, we as leaders of the organization need to recognize the challenges each generation poses. What motivates a millennial to accomplish a task versus what motivates a baby boomer? As you have seen, situational leadership can be a tool needed to help in this area. According to Hersey and Blanchard, there are four strengths for leaders to utilize the situational leadership approach when dealing with people within your organization. First, situational leadership is a credible model that has been around for years. Second, the model is easy to understand and implement. Third, this model leadership is prescriptive. It helps you determine what you should do and should not do in a given situation when dealing with personnel. Fourth, it affords the leader flexibility to adapt to their subordinates' needs. And finally, this style leadership recognizes subordinates are all different with no one-size-fits-all approach. As in life, criticism is expected. As such, the following are criticism of the situational leadership theory as stated by Hersey and Blanchard. Lack of research comes in as the first criticism. Only a few studies have been conducted to justify the effectiveness of the approach. Second, the theory doesn't take into account the subordinates' development levels. These criticisms are followed by the lack of explanation of the theoretical basis for change in each of the developmental level compositions. It doesn't take into account the style of leadership from the leader with their subordinate. The theory itself doesn't take into account the level of education, experience, age, and gender, nor does it address the difference in one-on-one versus group leadership in a given organization setting. The final criticism directed at the questionnaires that go hand in hand with the leadership theory.
Situational leadership can be applied to consulting because it is straightforward, easy to conceptualize, and can be applied to many work situations. Application and organization. This approach can be used to determine how the CEO of an organization works with members of the board and other levels in their organization. This approach can be applied for use with projects, especially when forming an idea when it is most critical, and during all different stages of the project until it is completed. Middle managers may also use this approach during staff meetings, and department heads can apply these principles to make structural changes within the organization. This approach can be applied to followers as they step forward or regress on accomplishing different projects. This can also be used with followers whose dedication or competencies change during a project. There are different versions of instruments to measure situational leadership, but all are similar in design. Typically, a questionnaire has 12 to 20 work-related situations, and responses are selected in terms of directing, coaching, supporting, or delegating. A variety of case studies can be used in different settings of an organization. One question that should always be included is, what would you do if you found yourself in a similar situation? In summary, situational leadership suggests leaders can be effective by using directive and supportive dimensions. The leader is effective if they can accurately determine the developmental level of the followers to meet their changing needs and then adapt their style with the situation.